All right, well, anyway, my name is Josiah Israel, known online as Zebulon to a lot of people. I began my walk in 87, 1987. I grew up in the church all my life. Church was a very big part of my life on the south side of Chicago. That's our thing, church. That's like right now, we spoke earlier about this great big thing that's going on with Obama and his past and all that, but that's part of where we grew up at. So we just have that certain type of mentality, whereas that's what I grew up in. So, but at any rate, I grew up in the church, and it was in 1987 when the Father led me to read Alex Haley's Roots. Because I credit Alex Haley for bringing me into the truth, for the Father allowing him to bring me, because I sat there and read the book. I had watched the series at least 3 times by that time. But when I read the book, and I noticed that in the book, it was kind of like different from the TV series, because in the book, it's like Kunta Kinte in Africa, and by the time he comes to America, it's also over half the book. Unlike the TV show where after Sunday night he's in America by Monday morning. And I thought that was really deep. Huh? Yeah, I thought that was it was just deep. There was so much stuff in there that it just blew my mind. So by the time I finished reading the book and closed the book up, it erased everything that I thought I believed in, scripturally and everything else, because it sent me on a search to say, I just read some things as far as my heritage in this book. It was the first time I had been exposed to something prior to our sojourning here in America that I connected with. And it was certain practices that I read in the book, like for instance, like concerning their dietary law, how they didn't eat pork, how the women were separated in their uncleanness and the circumcision. Some of that is in the movie, but reading in the book had a different type of effect on me. And so, being in Chicago again, I said, when we came over here as a people, we were Islamic, and that's my understanding. And then seeing how the Nation of Islam teaches that this is the black man's religion, I'm like, wow, they might have something there, okay? So I visited the mosque, Mosque Mariam. That's the headquarters of NOI, Nation of Islam. Why I chose that instead of Orthodox, I don't know, but I just went over there. And I sat there a couple of times, but then I did something that a lot of people don't do, and I researched it from the outside. Instead of joining inside and seeing all the guys dressed up in the suits and thinking, that's righteousness right there, and just taking, like she said, what they say and just going with it. I researched, I'm like, wow. So I researched Islam, read about Muhammad, and say, wait a minute. When he started his religion, he went starting from Egypt, which is the northeast corner of Africa, and forced people that look like us into the conversion of Islam. So it was a forced thing that didn't originate through us. So I'm like, well, if the Europeans forced this modern day Christianity on us, and they forced their Islamic thing on us, then now I know why Kunta Kinte and them were Islamic when they came. I mean, why our forefathers were Islamic when we came over here. So I was like, wow. So I was able to put that together, and so I returned back to the scriptures. And I read it from Genesis to Revelation, just straight through the first time. And when I closed the book then, I was like, wow, I don't know where to go now. Am I going to join somebody's synagogue? I'm going to become a Seventh-day Adventist? Because I had learned, just because when you have emptied out the stuff that you were taught and be exposed to just the truth, raw and uncut, you will do what? You will subject yourself to what you've been taught, according to what the Father had led you to read. And it kind of made me be able to read the scriptures in a whole different way. I learned to start reading the scriptures in a more historical point of view than reading it just like, these are words and those are just names, Adam, Abraham, whatever. And, when you read it historically, it's almost like going in a time machine. Yes. And I was reading that, so by the time I got to reading about the circumcision and all that, I was like, wow, this is what I read in Roots. I was like, man, this is it right here. So after I got finished, it was like I didn't have the full understanding of us being in Israel, not the full understanding, but I saw it, you know what I'm saying? But because I just saw it there, I wasn't telling, hey, you know what, guess what? I found out you were an Israelite. But what I did find out was that the Father's laws, hold up, give me a moment. Okay, what I found out was that his laws and statutes were still good. I was like, why? Hold up. Usually I don't get like this, but every time I go back there, it trips me out. Hold up. I know you say I don't like that emotionalism, but I'm trying to keep it down. But no, I mean, it's just a deep thing to me, how it was clear. Yes. From Old Testament to New Testament, I was like, wow, you know, because again, when you read it from historical context and you read Yeshua's words, you read the apostles' words, and you hear how Paul is, you know, they want to murder Paul because he accepts Messiah, yet he still keeping the laws and statutes. You're like, man, you know, how in the world these people can't see that, you know? So,
yeah, it's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Man, I wish I had to do that. Okay, but anyway, I had did that. I had later on I met one brother that was part of the church that I grew up with. He was an organist, and it was so funny because when I was still part of this church that I grew up, he was an organist. Me and him didn't really get along too much, and he actually kicked me out the choir. I was in the choir. Don't ask me to sing because I'm not a singer. You'll be doing that to your own detriment. But anyway, so we was So I used to go to this club in Chicago, 79th and Halsted, called Illusion. That used to be my spot Sunday nights, and I was there, and the brother was there. Man, brother, you still go to New Faith? I was like, no, I don't go to New Faith no more. I've been doing some studying, man. I've been seeing some things in the scriptures that, you know, like this is some stuff that, you know, that I didn't know before. And so he said, really? Like what? We went and grabbed our Bibles in the club, music blaring and everything. We sat down at a table in the club, and we had our scriptures open. I was showing them some things about the law, about Shabbat, about the dietary law. I mean, my understanding on that, it may not have been the understanding I would eventually have, but my faith in it was so strong in what I knew to be true that couldn't nobody turn me from that based on what so I was showing me like, wow, man. He was like, that's deep. He said, you know, I done joined I'm part of a Bible study that we have in Chicago, that we have on in South Shore, and they teach some of the same stuff that you read now. I'm like, really? I'm like, wow. And it was a group in Chicago called the Israel of God. I don't know if some of you heard of that group before. That's one of the bigger Hebrew Israelite groups in Chicago. At that time, I think they had maybe about 40 members then at that time. It was a very small group then. Right now, they're very big. They had about 40, 50 people. So I joined that. And I remember the brother that, his name is Bowie, Henry Bowie. He's the leader of the group. He did a lesson there called, I'll never forget the first lesson I heard from him. It was called World History Foretold by the Prophets. That was the name of the lesson. And so I sat there and he was doing the lesson. What he was doing, he was kind of breaking down Daniel. Some of the stuff I would later on find out to be not so much to be on point, but coming from a perspective that you ain't gonna go to nobody's church and hear somebody break down prophecy from a scriptural point of view in that way, to read it and be like, damn, like it blew my mind. And you know, just like, you know, what the sister kind of alluded to earlier is that, you know, when we hear some truth, it has to be proven all according to the scriptures. And just because somebody can prove one thing to the scriptures, you don't put your trust in any man to just assume that just because he's standing here and he's been in this word for so many times that everything that they say is going to be true. But the only thing that you should, and one thing that I try to come across with people, and why I love my brother over there because he has the exact same spirit, is that what we believe in first and foremost is just to have an appreciation for the word. Have an appreciation for this word, because so many people get caught up in either traditions and especially philosophies, you know. Well, how can, just like you was telling me, just like when we was, what were we talking about yesterday when he was
when you was debating with a brother, and what was it?
About whether the law is still in existence or not.
Uh-huh. No, it was something when I had asked you, well, what did he prove you? And then he came with a philosophical question to you. I forgot what it was, because I asked you, I said, what was his answer to you? You said, well, he said that, how can that be when? So in other words, this is what a lot of groups do. They come with a philosophical slant to something, whether it could be the Messiah, whether it could be with Israel, or anything, and they use this philosophical stance as doctrine. Oh, the name Jesus.
Okay, right.
The name Jesus. What was it? It was
Jesus was the Father's name.
Right. It was something to that. They said, well, how can his name not be Jesus? It was something real philosophical, but they teach that and they make other people answer the same way. A philosophical answer instead of going to the scripture and prove what you're saying according to the scripture. So anyway, and that's where indoctrination comes from. You know, indoctrination comes from like that. So just like my brother over there, what we basically believe in is that, is that first and foremost, that even as we teach, we are still learning. See, a lot of these cats, they're not learning anymore. They know it all. My organization is the end all, be all, know, and you ain't got no business going over there. You ain't got no business even listening to that cat over there. And, that's not something that any servant of the Most High would say. Only way I would tell somebody not to do that if they serving Baal or they serving a whole nother deity, whatever. I would happily tell you, no, you don't need to be doing that. But as far as, the thing is that if you have a respect for scriptures, the Father will reveal everything He has for you.
Yes, hallelujah.
You would not lose any debates with anybody because all they had to do is open up the scripture. You didn't have to fight people with scripture versus scripture. Be like, well, what is, you can deal I learned that you can deal with people right there where they at. Because what people don't know how to do, they don't know how to read scripture from historical context. And a lot of that I'm going to show some examples of that in the lesson that I'm bringing in just a few minutes. But anyway. And that's not a nutshell, it's been like 20 minutes. That's really my testimony. And again, I praise y'all for you all, coming out, in the midst of this high gas prices that's steadily going up. I don't know how y'all gonna get home, but y'all welcome. My road or whatever. But on that note, we're gonna go ahead and open up. Akazat, you're gonna open us up in prayer. And Jerusalem is this way, so that's usually like what the chair said. All I got to do is stand up.